Welcome to the next edition of Grid Forward Chats. I'm Bryce Yonker. Today we have with us Paul Lau. Paul is at the helm of SMUD. Paul, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fun acronym for those that know it, Sacramento Municipal Utility District. As the name says, tell us a little bit about yourself. I see your profile says only 42 years, 6 months there at the organization. So tell me a little bit about what's brought you there to the helm at the entity.
Yeah. Okay. So as my CV said, this is my 42nd year with the company. I just have been very blessed. I started as an engineering student in the nuclear engineering department, writing code for fuel rotations on the nuclear power plant. And then I was going to be here a couple of years. I was actually at school at the time. And when I graduated, SMUD actually offered me a job, and I gladly accepted. And through my 42 years here, I've had the great fortune of really working and leading all the major functions of the company. So I've been the chief customer officer, the chief distribution services officer, the power supply officer, grid strategy and operations officer. And so I think the big joke in my house is that I can't keep a job more than 5 years.
Well, SMUD's fortunate to have you. The industry is, and we're really glad to chat with you about what's going on in the marketplace. So I guess my first question will be a little bit of level setting. Tell me a little bit about the impact that state, federal, maybe some regional policy elements, how those impact the priorities that not only you all set, but the peers that operate the grids there in California set. What sort of impact do those policies play when you're prioritizing your investment decisions?
Well, I think what happened is that I think both the state and the federal clean energy policies and mandates really have a huge impact on our priority and how to get to zero. I think at the federal level, I think we reduced greenhouse gas emissions like 50 to 52% below the 2005 level. And then I think we are trying to reach 100% pollution-free electricity by 2035, and then also deliver 40% of those benefits from federal investments in clean energy to disadvantaged communities. And for California, as we're probably one of the more progressive states, in the union. We want to get to 100% zero carbon electricity sales and economy-wide net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. And then, of course, that our renewable portfolio standard has increased from 33% at 2020 to 60% by 2030. And then also the innovative clean transit mandate really requires public transit to ramp up to 100% zero emissions buses by 2029 and full transitions by 2040. So I think when you have all those things happening, and of course, there's so much grants available. I think there's been more grants available at the federal level, more than it ever had. I think there's $8 billion is available. So SMUD, we're very fortunate. We were able to, working with our partners, got almost like $330 million last year, $270 million working with Calpine to do to basically retrofit one of the existing gas-fired plants to a 100% carbon capture and sequestration plant. And then we also were able to get $50 million to do grid resiliency on the GRIP grant, the Grid Resilience Innovation Partnership Program. And we are awarded $50 million of that to start actually putting the next generation of smart meters in. And then also start putting in the outage management system to start looking at how do you actually manage as the weather get more and more crazy and outages get more and more extreme. How do we actually also look at managing the thousands of endpoints on electric vehicles, EVs, PVs? So we're putting in the advanced distribution management system and also a DERMS, distribution energy resource management system. And so big things that we're doing to modernize the grid and getting us ready for the clean energy challenge. But then this year, we have put in another $350 million grant for the federal government to really upgrade our substations, to incorporate more renewables, and we full in on batteries. We are trying to get a 75 megawatt battery storage at one of our sites, and then putting in 10,000 residential batteries that support our low income, median income customers. And so, yeah, we're doing a lot. I mean, I think having money at the federal level, having money at the state level. In fact, the California Energy Commission just gave us $10 million to start putting in a iron flow batteries in about 10 megawatts. It gave us 10 million to actually put in one of our substations. So, a lot of money available at the federal and state level, encouraging innovation, encouraging utilities to really kind of push the envelope to try to get to zero carbon.
So many of the greatest hits, and we're only one question in. Um, so let's zero in a little bit about the decarbonization goals that SMUD itself has set. You,
Yes.
you all have laid out one of the most aggressive in the industry. How is it going? What are you learning? Where are you at? Really, there's a lot of questions there, but I'll just hand it over to you.
Yeah, great question. As some of you know, that SMUD, we're a community-owned, not-for-profit utility. Back in 2020, our board announced a climate emergency declarations when I became CEO, and this is the same time that both the city and the county has declared climate emergency declarations also. So I was actually charged with really getting in touch with the communities to see what do they expect from a electric utility when it comes to delivering a clean energy vision. So after spending about 5 months, and I think we had talked to about 900 different people, and I think we have a dozen community meetings, we developed something called the 2030 Clean Energy Vision. So this is really a vision for us to have a cleaner, healthier utility, really focus on innovation, partnering, and organization agility. So when we put the vision together, it was to get to absolute zero by 2030, but with two guardrails. One is that we got to maintain our road cost reliability, and two is that we got to make sure our rates is affordable. So we have made a promise that we will not raise our rates higher than inflation. And so those are the two guardrails. And when we actually took the plan out and communicate with our community how this could mean cleaner air for the community, better jobs, how this is an open invitation to the world to come join us, we had a 93% approval rating from the community, which is fantastic. And so fast forward 3 years, from when we first adopted the plan. So when we first adopted the plan, we know that the current technology can get us about 90% of the way there. But to get to 100%, you need investment in new technologies like carbon capture and sequestration, long duration batteries, hydrogen, and we know even though we can't put in California, but small modular nuclear. So if you really want to talk about carbon, so fast forward where we are. Very excited. So we actually had two major partnerships together now. So I think you heard me talk to earlier. We partnered with Calpine last year to go to DOE and said, hey, we want to be an example of how to transition a gas-fired plant, a 2x1 combined cycle, to 100% carbon capture plant. It's going to go from 550 megawatts to 400 megawatts. So you lose quite a bit of production, 150 megawatts, but the output will be 95 to 98% carbon free. So very happy that DOE agreed with us and Calpine, and right now that's in negotiations. The second piece is that we also signed a strategic partnership with a company called ESS. It's an iron flow batteries that produce 6, 8, and 10 hours of battery storage that you need to really integrate renewables when you have a lot of excess renewables on the grid itself. So with those two breakthroughs, and we now have a clean pathway to get to 100% zero carbon by 2030. And what have we done so far for 3 years? So we brought over 300 megawatts of renewables and energy storage online. We have about 950 megawatts of the renewables and energy storage that is expected to come online by 2026, 2027 timeframe. We have about 4,000 megawatts that we evaluated, in the California footprint, and we are actively pursuing about 700 of those megawatts of those to come to bring online by 2030. So we're ecstatic that when we actually put the challenge out to the world and to our partners and to the industries, they responded, coming to partner with us. So we now. Once we sign contract with Calpine with what the offtake agreement is, we actually have a viable pathway to get to zero by 2030.
I think you already started covering a lot of the building blocks here, but let me just ask it anyway.
Okay.
Um, looking at some of the peers in the West or in California or just some other places, they've seen more upward rate pressure than you all have.
Yes.
What has that secret sauce been? Like, how have you all been able to keep affordability so front of mind even amidst such aggressive transition goals?
I think we're very fortunate because where we're situated in California, right? So first of all, we have access to the market to the north. With through BPA, we have transmission line to the north. We're also part of the California CAISO, right? Even though we're not in the CAISO, but we partner with CAISO. So we're one of the first to participate in the energy imbalance market, which through the years now has saved us hundreds of millions of dollars. And we are embarking also. I think us and the Balancing Authority of Northern California, which SMUD operates along with Western Air Power Administration and a couple of surrounding utilities. So we also have made commitments to go into the enhanced day-ahead market because we really believe through market efficiencies it will help us generate savings for our customers. Now on top of that, we've also has been very aggressive in terms of looking at technology to improve our operation efficiencies. So that's why you heard us we've actually invested in smart meters, one of the first utilities, so we can reduce cost of labor to do meter readings. So we actually were the first one to put in, outage management system, advanced distribution management systems, and, DERMS, distributed energy resource management systems. We're also very aggressive, rightly, on both the building and transportation electrification front. Our plan actually is a $4.7 billion plant. Is not only decarbonize our power plants, but also advance accelerate both building and transportation electrification. So there'll be additional, obviously, revenue by growth coming in, using our infrastructure more efficiently. But more importantly, is really also making sure that as we go forward, we actually engage our customer to be part of that solutions. So we are really heavy right now looking at virtual power plants, low flexibilities, demand responses, as we used to call it. And then we're also investing a lot right now on electric vehicles because we really believe vehicle to grid or vehicle to home will be a reality soon. And then also solar, rooftop solar, and batteries. So in fact, right now we are encouraging our customers to put in batteries. So in fact, we're offering them up to $10,000 to put in 2 power walls. So it's a combination really about working with our customers so that they are part of the solutions. And we saw that during the energy crisis and also during the heat wave 2 years ago, just by the old-fashioned way, calling the city, calling the state, calling the county, and please shift load. We shifted 170 megawatts out of a 3,300 megawatt, plant without offering any incentives, just by good old-fashioned calling them, say, hey, SMUD really needs you today because the grid is really stressed. And so please, reduce load when you can, or pre-cool the building where you can, and if you can, send people home. In fact, we were so thankful that the county told, on our behalf, asked the airport to run on backup generations, and they did. So this is a testament that's the thing that we're really proud of, that our plan is not a SMUD plan, right? Our ambitious goal is actually the ambitious goal of the region. And in fact, we have something called Join the Charge, which SMUD customers, can sign up to the 99 ways they can do to actually conserve energy or be more energy efficient. And I think we're at 125,000 customers now by signing up to do something to Join the Charge to be part of this movement to actually get to a clean energy future. But making
Yeah.
sure that you don't leave anybody behind, but do it in a way that still maintain the world-class reliability, but also do it in a way that actually keep the rates affordable.
Let's dive into that innovation portfolio and pick some of your favorites. You all are really trying to lean into the advanced capabilities of running a modern energy system. So you already mentioned ADMS, you already mentioned DERMS, you already mentioned EV integration. What areas of demonstrating innovation are you all finding some particular success with? And maybe I'll ask the other question, which is, how do you all ensure that the innovation you're working towards can be deployed at a scale that matters, so that it's not just a kind of a science project that gets put on a shelf and gets really dusty?
That's a great question, Russ. You must be talking to our CFO because how do you actually turn pilots into realities, right? And then how do you actually scale it so it actually makes a difference? So I think that probably the very first one that really demonstrated that was the smart meters. Right. So we were very fortunate. We were one of the first one. We got 60% of the grants given to California to put in smart meters for every single one of our customers, right? And not only do we put in smart meters, we actually put in the remote disconnect switches. So that way we can actually save labor, but also improve efficiencies, right, for our customer, improve service. And because we have smart meters, now we also know the system loadings. We actually have better information when you have outages, that we actually ping, the meters before, our crews leave when you have an outage. And now the next generation is coming, that you actually have apps you can put in the smart meters, so you can actually have home automation. You can actually start actually now getting intelligence at the edge of the of the grid itself. And because one of the biggest challenges is that how do you optimize what customers are putting in, which is hundreds of $1 millions a year, right? With EVs, PVs, smart home appliances. How do you actually get the visibility on those and have programs and controls that meets their lifestyles and benefits them, but also benefit the grid? So if you ask me what I'm most excited about, right? I think technology is really about having technologies that deploy at the customer premise, but bring back the information that's actionable, that you can actually now create benefits not only for that individual customer, for the grid as a whole. So I said, in some sense, you asked a question earlier, why is SMUD in some sense, we can actually keep the cost low and keep the innovation going, because I think we're very fortunate. We're still vertically integrated, right? We run our own balancing authority. We own our transmission. We own distribution. We own the customer, right? And so it doesn't matter where the benefit comes from. If it comes from beyond the customers, and if you help me improve distribution and transmission, I can bring those value back to the customers. If I can actually control what the customers demand is, and it benefits me in the marketplace, I can sell it and optimize it in the marketplace. I can do that. So I think SMUD, in some sense, our size is perfect, because we're not so big that we can't move quickly, but we're big enough that we have the resources to really play into those new business models, right? To say, well, if I can get customers shift load, now that reliefs me to the most expensive time to buy from the market. Or even better, if I can get into shift load, I can actually even sell into the market when the cost is really high, right? And help out on my neighbors. So I think we're in that optimum location. So what I'm most excited about is really the customer platforms that we're putting in to really understand what's happening beyond the grid. How do you optimize it and make it actionable and create the value chain across the board?
And where are those use cases where the customer-sided value or assets are coming in and interfacing with an ADMS or with your DERMS obviously from a peak management standpoint,
Yes.
you see that?
Yes, we do.
But what from an outage standpoint, you see that? You've mentioned both of those. Is there anything else that we haven't really covered that really is exciting from a use case standpoint there?
Yeah, I think from a use case standpoint is that, but if you can actually get enough control across scale, that now you can actually bundle all those resources together and have it play in the marketplace, right? And so before, the challenge has always been is that you have onesie twosies, and you don't have any control of it. You don't have the synchronization of those resources. So it's never to a scale that our PSO and our power traders can actually use. But that has changed, right? Especially what has changed in California, especially, is the cost of energy. RA prices is huge right now. So that's why we said, hey, instead of us paying an IPP, right, so I can buy RA from, why am I not paying my customers to put in the batteries so they can do rate arbitrage, right? If they have an outage, you have provide grid resiliency. And by allowing us to use it, to charge it and discharge it, for the grid, for ancillary services, and also to provide RA for us, it's a triple win, right? It's a win, for the customer. It's a win for SMUD. It's a win, for the market itself. That's really why I'm excited about, and that's why I truly believe all the technology now has to be focusing on how do you engage the customer, and that's why I'm so excited about AI. The other piece I'm really excited about is AI, right? It's now it's first time that is taking the complexity of programming and large machine learning and bring it down to, I think, someone who's not technically savvy can actually take advantage of it.
Costly distribution upgrades, frequent extreme weather events, demand surging from an onslaught of distributed energy resources adoption. Do these challenges sound familiar? If so, you need Virtual Peaker's cloud-based distributed energy platform. we're empowering modern utilities with next-generation virtual power plant solutions to maximize the value of DERs. The virtual peaker platform unifies all aspects of DER management, from DERMS to customer engagement and demand forecasting. Learn more at virtual-peaker.com.
Before we and if we go down the rabbit hole on the use of AI on the grid,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to touch on the equity component of this,
Yes.
because sometimes this advanced functionality is hard for more vulnerable communities or individuals to get access to. How does SMUD prioritize that the modern grid directly brings value to vulnerable communities, or that these vulnerable communities have access to the most advanced capabilities?
Well, you know what? So that's, I think, one of the beauty being in a community-owned organizations. And in fact, when we actually went out and talked to our customers, there's a whole segment of customers that, this clean energy transition doesn't mean anything to me. I don't drive electric vehicles. I can't afford to. I'm a renter. I don't put solar on my roof. So what are you talking about? So what we talked to them about is really about this clean energy transition is really more about cleaning the air, but more importantly, it's about bringing inclusive workforce development and inclusive economic development into the picture. So one of the things, the promise that we actually did, to the community is that go through this clean energy transition, we want to make sure no community get left behind. And how do you do that? So what we did is that we created something called the Community Impact Plan, or Sustainable Community is what we actually coined it. We actually went through every single zip code in Sacramento in a service territory, and honestly, and we actually mapped it from their social economics, jobs, air quality, income levels, and said this is really what the different communities that we're serving. Where is our under-resourced community? What are the challenges, and how do you actually create programs to bring them along? So one of our biggest thing right now is actually making sure that the workforce of the future, comes from those under-resourced community, or they have access to those under-resourced community. So case in point, we're actually the training and hiring arm for a company called Sparks that is actually moving Sacramento to build batteries. And we have agreed to be their recruitment arm to hire the first 114, technicians that'll be working on that plant. And when we're doing recruitment we have partnership with 147 community-based organizations, people that serve their communities to help us get the word out and actually get to do the recruitment. And so, in fact, it's another example of that we were super excited about, you can tell, is we partnered with IBW. We actually gave scholarship to 30 of the cohorts that we actually attracted about 900 applicants to actually learn how to climb poles and learn how to do math and be competitive for online worker for SMUD. Because in the past, and that job pays extremely well. It started at $50 an hour when you're apprentice and goes to $90 when you graduate. And with overtime, you're making over $200,000 a year. But we want to make sure those jobs actually, have access to folks that from those under-resourced communities. Long story short, so after graduation, 23 of them graduated. Now 9 of those in the next 12 months is going to be SMUD line persons. So that's what we're doing. That's on one end of it. The other end of what we're doing is that we're doing a lot right now. Like, for example, we've gotten grants to go in whole neighborhoods to completely electrify whole under-resourced neighborhoods. We're working with the local contractors. We're working with the local trainers to try to actually, not only do we actually create, the jobs, to do electrification on those under-resourced communities, we're also helping the pipeline for those jobs. So, in fact, we did, I think 300 of the neighborhood jobs, neighborhood homes that we actually electrified, completely electrified, and energy efficiency, and through a grant through Doris Matsui, which is our congresswoman, and then SMUD's funding half of it. So I think the big thing for us is that we want to make sure that we have programs, like, for example, electric vehicles. We work with at the Air Resources Board to give used car, basically rebates for used EVs that they can actually deploy. And then the other big one is that to make sure that people in those neighborhoods have access to electric vehicles, we created something called mobility hubs. And so what that is that it's actually is putting a charging station in under-resourced communities, and we're actually putting electric vehicles, hydrogen vehicles, completely built from the resources from the neighborhoods, giving them access to work on electric vehicles, to work in charging units, but also having access to those vehicles to take their kids to doctor's appointments or to take them to job interviews. So we want to start actually introducing why is electric vehicle important for the communities? How do you actually get jobs to work in that sector? And then how do they benefit if you actually electrify a home, how it reduces the overall energy bill and how it increases the comfort, how it increases the air quality. So we're doing all those. And so we're very, very happy that the federal government is actually putting in, the Justice 40, that for federal grants coming in, 40% of the benefit have to go to under-resourced, communities. And we felt we had a big influence in showing an example how to actually do that.
Well, you already answered my second question. Another question I had, which is we always say that the people power side of this is so critical.
Yes.
And so I was going to ask about the skills and workforce
Yeah.
and development opportunities and capabilities that you all are looking to accelerate. But you kind of answered that. So maybe I'll pivot it to a related question about the culture that you all have there. What kind of culture does SMUD have? Is this something that's been long-standing? Is this something that's a little bit more unique to your tenure there? How did you guys cultivate that, and how do you really inspire the people that are a part of the team to feed into that?
That's a great question. I think SMUD have always had a culture that, our employees are most important asset. So I think with SMUD, we're fortunate that, the last 4 CEOs has come from, within the organization, long-term tenures. So we've been able to build, I think, upon, each other's success. So when I know you remember when Jen Shorey was there, John became the CEO right after Jen left, and he was able to build that culture. And then when John left, Arlen was able to build, among the culture. And then when Arlen left, I was able to build among the culture, right? So SMUD has always believe that our employee is the most important assets. And I think up and down the chain, we try to walk the talk. When I first became CEO, I said, you know what, we're a company of high trust. We want to make sure that our employees engage because at the end of the day, it's our employees, not the executives, not me, that deliver value to our customers day in and day out. So if they're engaged, if they're excited about the mission, then they are going to give their 100%, right, to serve, the community. So our culture is that we said, you know what, 2030 clean energy vision is a great unifying vision, right? Everybody's rolling, because this is important. This is more than SMUD. This is about the future of our kids, and it's also about the Sacramento region. But what's important is that we said after 2030, there'll be other goals and other pieces, right? But diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is how we do everything. We want to make sure that when an employee comes to SMUD on day one, they meet all the executives. We have called speed dating with the CEOs and also the executives. They need to hear it directly from us that they are one asset. We want to take care of them when they come in. We want them to learn and grow, and hopefully, like me, that for a long time, you can go from an intern to a CEO and stay within one company. But more importantly, it's really making sure that we hear them, right? We actually hear them. We explain to them the decision that we make, and making sure that we have a good communication up and down the chain. And I have something called Straight Talk with Paul that every quarter, every few months, it's online just like this, and over 350 people, and and we go out and actually talk to the employees about why is it important for them to be engaged, and if SMUD management isn't doing well, we want us to hold us accountable. We want them to actually come tell us if we're not doing well, what area we're doing well, what area we're not doing well, and how do you continue to improve. In fact, we just updated the family leave because we heard from young parents, ERGs, that hey, SMUD, with elderly care, with child care, we really SMUD, we really need to think a look at the benefit that you actually offer to make sure you attract and retain the best employees. So we're very fortunate. And I think the other big piece too, Bryce, is that is always very gratifying, especially when we talk to all the new employees. I think employees join SMUD, yes, we're a competitive pay organization, but because of the fact that our whole purpose is to better serve the community. In fact, our mission and goal is to improve the quality of life for the Sacramento area. And our mission, is to be a trusted, powerful, inclusive partner for a zero carbon economy. That is our mission. That's our board actually has changed our mission. I mean, in terms of just being electric company. So I think we're attracting a lot of talent, coming in who firmly believe that they're, are passionate about serving the community, and through their local electric company.
Um, we have two more questions before we wrap
Okay.
up. This is kind of a high level one, but
Okay.
I'll ask it. What kind of legacy do you want to leave? Whether it's there at SMUD, whether it's there in your community or the wider industry, what kind of impact are you hoping to make?
The legacy I'm hoping I'm leaving behind is that, I think climate change is probably one of the biggest challenge facing mankind. And I think the legacy I'm hoping that is that, by looking at SMUD, looking at how we approached it, how we actually make it a partnership with our customers, our community, our regulators. If everybody does their piece, this insurmountable goal all of a sudden now is achievable. And hopefully, that uh, my legacy would be is we're the sixth largest, POU, not obviously not the biggest, but if there's a will, there's a way, and if you partner with the community, partner with the regulators, partner with industries, even those goals that doesn't seem achievable will be achievable. At least would give it a hell of a shot.
And I'll end on this one. You can take them in whatever order you want.
Okay.
A lot comes across your proverbial desk. So whether it's one or two things, maybe you can share the real tough challenges. Think about them maybe as nightmares that keep you up, and the really exciting opportunities. And maybe those are the dreams that just wake you up and you're so excited about. But what's each side of that coin look like for you right now?
So I think, not surprisingly, after CloudStrike, cybersecurity, and the keeping our technology operational is number one. That's always number one because it's just the reality of it, right? How do you keep our system operational, and how do you keep our customer data safe? Is number one paramount, right? Because if the if the power stopped flowing, civilization as we know right now doesn't exist. So, and then the second piece is employee safety. So we have a 10-year goal. We've been working on, right now, on year number 10 is try to get to zero. Traditionally, when you look at electric utility, there's a lot of inherent risk. And so, and unfortunately, our employee gets hurt. So my things is that I hope, and I said that before, I hope before I leave the company, we actually have a year that will get to zero injuries, that every single one of employees went home safely. I would hope that would be my legacy, and I'm hoping I'll get there. So as I've said before, I would trade in every single one of my awards or smart awards, for that no one gets hurt, under the watch, under what we know why they're working at SMUD. And then, so that is probably the challenges that we face, right? But the exciting thing right now is that I think this is my 42nd year with the company. Because of climate change, there have never been more interest in the electric utility. And the utility can really play that pivotal role in making sure that, we can get to a clean energy future in a way that is reliable, that's safe, that's affordable, but in a way that actually matches the customer's lifestyle. Because we know different customer does different things. So I think the opportunity right now with new technologies coming online, that's never been more exciting, when you look at new technologies that'll help us get there. But then also new technologies like AI coming through, right? Just going to radically change, how we look at stuff. So I think on one end is that I think it's going to be, keeping the grid safe, right? I mean, from a cybersecurity perspective and keeping, the grid running. Second one is keeping our employees safe. Those are the two things that always keep me up at night. And then the exciting thing is that all the new technologies, all those new things, all the creative people out there in the world, trying to tackle the same problem together. And us, SMUD get to play, a part of it. And hopefully, we can play, a leading part of it in terms of helping, people see that there's a path to get to where we need to go in a way that actually the customers and the community would actually accept.
Paul, what a pleasure to be able to catch up with you. Hearing the vision, but hearing it in action, so inspiring. Thanks for taking the time to be on with us.
No, thank you so much for inviting me to share like a little part what SMUD is doing, and thank you. Hopefully, through this podcast, you can spread the word because if we can do it, we believe every community can do it.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
What a great word.
Thanks again to our season sponsor, Virtual Peaker. If you enjoy Grid Forward Chats, please follow us on your favorite podcast platform, give us a like or a review, and tell your colleagues. You can listen to all episodes and learn more about our efforts to advance the grid at gridforward.org.